free college football picks, week 13, part 2. Tony T here with our college football pick show here for Tuesday. We have both games for Tuesday, then we'll have 8 for Saturday here on this week 13 part 2 show. We'll get all 63 games here. We'll then just do it in 6 parts here. So before we get underway, just a couple of things. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free college football picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NFL. We also have NBA, college basketball, NHL, World Cup, and more. It's a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. Then visit Tony'sPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the link to the hot cappers. Get signed up for some of our long-term passes. We see some of our guys like Brandon, who's been pretty hot. I've been doing well in NFL and college football past 30 days. Mindy's been hot. Look at her numbers in NHL. They've been on fire here. Nick and Paul, as well as Ramon. Click the links to get signed up to our long-term passes. You'll find our premium picks here, right here on the center of the page, as well as our best bets. Each capper can release a best bet from each sport per day. We have many up there right now. Our $15 premium picks are promotional items. Each capper can designate one of their picks from their card as a $15 pick just to introduce their service to new and existing customers. Our 3-packs are great value there. Check them out. And, of course, we do sell picks a la carte here on the Pick Ticker. Lots of action for you right there as well. Let's pick one up today. Let you know we have a promo code. You can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use that promo code TonyT at checkout, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description. Click the All Cappers tab and get signed up. Also love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. You can apply for a capper position. We have them open now. Apply at our page at Tony's Picks at the bottom where the submit form is. And also our podcast. Every pick and podcast form available on all major platforms. Just search Tony's Picks. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Ball State versus Miami, Ohio college football pick. This one is on Tuesday. Ball State fell to 5-6 with their 32-18 home defeat to Ohio. Cardinals gained 367 yards with 94 rushing on 19 carries. On defense, they surrendered over 4.5 yards per rush to the Bobcats with 203 passing on 24 attempts. John Paddock completed 60% of his passes in the loss with 5.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. On the season, Paddock a 60% completion rate with 5.8 yards per attempt. Miami, Ohio improved to 5-6 with their 29-23 road win at Northern Illinois. Redhawks posted 356 yards with 171 rushing on 48 attempts. On the defense, they surrendered 6.5 yards per rush to the Huskies with 165 passing yards on 22 passing attempts. Avion Smith completed 48% of his passes with 8 yards per attempt. He threw for 185 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Smith a 51% completion rate with 6.3 yards per attempt. Gabbert has been dealing with injuries and would prefer him over the inaccurate Smith. Redhawks' current defensive form also concerned. The play here will be Ball State +3. Bowling Green versus Ohio college football pick. This one goes off here on Tuesday. Bowling Green moves to 6-5 with their 42-35 road win at Toledo. Falcons gained 456 yards with 61 rushing on 27 carries. Defensively, they allowed over 3 yards per rush to the Rockets with 329 passing on 48 attempts. Matt McDonald completed 55% of his passes with 11 yards per attempt. He threw for 395 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. This season, McDonald a 62% completion rate, 21 touchdowns, 5 picks, 7 yards per attempt. Ohio improved to 8-3 with their 32-18 road win at Ball State. Bobcats gained 427 yards, 224 rushing on 46 attempts. On defense, Bobcats allowed nearly 5 yards per rush with 273 passing yards on 48 attempts. Kelly Work is questionable with a knee injury. C.J. Harris relieved last week, completed 62% but only 4.3 yards per attempt. This season, Harris a 42% completion rate, 2.8 yards per attempt. He has thrown 13 passes the past 3 seasons. Bobcats with 8 wins are locked for a bowl. Falcons with 6 wins are guaranteed nothing. A 7th win guarantees pretty much a bowl berth over any 6-win team. Rourke injury, a massive concern. The play here will be Bowling Green +7. East Carolina versus Temple college football pick. This one is on Saturday. East Carolina is 6-5 with their 42-3 home defeat to Houston Cougars. Pirates gained 315 yards with 118 rushing on 22 carries. Offensively, ECU allowed over 3 yards per rush to the Cougars with 435 passing yards on 44 attempts. Holden Ahlers completed season lows here, 50%, 6.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 182 yards. This season, Ahlers a 67% completion rate with 7.9 yards per attempt. Temple fell to 3-8 with their 23-3 home defeat to Cincinnati. Owls gained 202 yards with 35 rushing on 19 carries. On defense, Temple allowed over 3 yards per rush to the Bearcats with 257 passing yards on 35 attempts. E.J. Warner completed 58% of his passes for 4.6 yards per attempt. He passed for 167 yards and 2 interceptions. Pirates need a win for bowl eligibility, and the Owls are out of the postseason contention. But past 3 games, Pirates defense allowing 404 yards with 8.2 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be Temple plus 13. Kent versus Buffalo, college football pick. This one is on Saturday. Kent fell to 4-7 with their 31-24 home defeat to Eastern Michigan. Golden Flashes gained 357 yards with 116 rushing on 33 carries. Defensively, they allowed over 3 yards per rush to EMU with 315 passing on 40 attempts. Colin Sclee completed 50% of his passes in defeat with 12.5 yards per attempt. He threw for 150 yards and a touchdown. This year, Sclee completed 59% of his passes with 8 yards per attempt. Buffalo is 5-5 with that 31-27 road defeat at Central Michigan. Bulls gained 431 yards with 240 rushing on 57 attempts. Defensively, they surrendered about 8 yards per rush to the Chippewas with 117 passing on 17 attempts. Cole Snyder completed 59% of his passes, 6 yards per attempt. He threw for 191 yards and an interception. This season, Snyder a 59% completion rate with 6.7 yards per attempt. Golden Flash is out of bowl consideration. Buffalo needs one win to become bowl eligible. A decision about making up that Akron game will be later in the week. It's always tough to win in Buffalo for MAC teams. On the road, Golden Flashes are allowing 450 yards, 274 passing with 8.9 yards per attempt. The play here will be Buffalo -4. Akron versus Northern Illinois college football pick. This one is on Saturday. Akron fell to 1-9 with their 34-28 home defeat to Eastern Michigan. Zips gained 386 yards with 163 rushing on 35 carries. Defensively, they held the Eagles to 4 yards per rush with 190 passing on 28 attempts. DJ Irons is questionable on the year. He is completing 67% of his passes with 6.9 yards per attempt in the loss to the Eagles. He completed 44%, 7 yards per pass attempt on the year. Under Cluffer came in here and may have to play for DJ Irons, and under Cluffer a 47% completion rate with 5 yards per attempt here. Northern Illinois 3-8 with their 29-23 home defeat to Miami, Ohio. Huskies gained 365 yards, 200 rushing on 32 carries. Defensively, they held the Red Hawks to 3.5 yards per rush, 185 passing on 23 attempts. Nevin Kremascali completed 63% of his passes, 7.5 yards per attempt. He passed for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick. On the year, Kremascali, 48% completion rate, 6.3 yards per attempt. You know, the Zips quarterback situation, a concern at home. NIU is running for nearly 5 yards a carry, while Akron's allowing 206 rushing yards with 5.2 yards per rush on the road. The play here will be Northern Illinois at -10. Rice versus North Texas college football pick. This one is on Saturday. Rice fell to 5-6 with that 41-7 home defeat to UTSA. Owls gained 230 yards with 5 yards rushing on 32 carries. Defensively, they allowed 8.5 yards per rush to the Roadrunners with 132 passing on 23 attempts. Four-string QB Shaki Etraish completed 47% of his passes with 4.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 89 yards and an interception. They had to pull Wiley Green quickly in this one. TJ McMahon on the year has a 60% completion rate with 7.9 yards per attempt. Now North Texas fell to 6-5 with their 41-21 road defeat to UAB. Mean Green gained 264 yards with 105 rushing on 29 carries. On defense, they limited their opponent here, UAB, to nearly 5.5 allowed, I should say, UAB to 5.5 yards per rush on the ground, with 234 passing on 23 attempts. Asanani completed season lows here, 47% with pass completions here with 5 yards per attempt. He passed for 159 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Ani a 57% completion rate, 9.1 yards per attempt. So he does make big plays downfield. But Rice needs a win for bowl eligibility. 6-win teams are not guaranteed a bowl berth, especially in conferences like Conference USA. 7 wins means the Mean Green are in. Rice quarterback situation is a mess. Past 3 games, Owls allowing 401 yards with nearly 6 yards per carry on the ground and 8 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be North Texas minus 13.5. Louisville versus Kentucky college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Louisville improved to 7-4 with that 25-10 home win to NC State. Cardinals gained 345 yards, 192 of it rushing on 39 carries. Defensively, they held the Wolfpack to under 3 yards per rush with 214 passing yards on 42 attempts. Brock Doman completed 48% of his passes with 6.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 143 yards now on the season. Doman a 51% completion rate with 7.2 yards per attempt. Malek Cunningham had a shoulder injury and missed the game. Kentucky fell to 6-5 with their 16-6 home defeat to Georgia Bulldogs. Wildcats put up 295 yards with 89 rushing on 25 carries. Defensively, they allowed 5 yards per rush with 116 passing on 19 attempts. Will Levis completed 64% of his passes, 6.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 206 yards with a touchdown and interception on the year. Levis, a 66% completion rate, 8.4 yards per attempt. Louisville, four of their past 5 games have been at home for the Louisville Cardinals. Now they have a backup on the road facing a good Wildcats defense. On the road, the Cardinals are allowing 400 yards, 4.5 yards per rush, 8.3 yards per attempt. In the passing game, the play here will be on Kentucky minus 3.5. Troy versus Arkansas State college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Troy improved to 9-2 with their 34-16 home win to UL Monroe. Trojans gained 342 yards, 264 rushing on 42 carries. Defensively, they held the Warhawks to under 3 yards per rush with 145 passing on 28 attempts. Gunnar Watson, 59% completions here with a season low 4.6 yards per attempt. He passed for 78 yards. Now this season, Watson a 61% completion rate, 8 yards per attempt. Arkansas State 3-8 with that 16-13 road defeat to Texas State. Red Wolves gained 291 yards, 54 on the ground on 23 carries. Defensively, they held the Bobcats at 3.5 yards per rush, 196 passing on 37 attempts. Now, James Blackman completed 55% in the game, 6 yards per attempt. He had passed for 237 yards and a touchdown. This year, Blackman, a 65% completion rate, 7.2 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, Red Wolves averaging 241 yards, 2.5 yards per rush, 5.7 yards per attempt. A win in Troy is in the Sun Belt title game. The play here will be Troy minus 13.5. Purdue versus Indiana college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Purdue improved to 7-4 with that 17-9 home win to Northwestern. Boilermakers gained 299 yards with 140 rushing on 42 carries. Defensively, they allowed nearly 4 yards per rush with 78 passing on 20 attempts. Aiden O'Connell completed 64% of his passes with 6.4 yards per attempt. He threw for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. This season, O'Connell a 64% completion rate, 6.7 yards per attempt. Indiana improved to 4-7 after that 39-31 road overtime win to Michigan State Spartans. Hoosiers gained 288 yards, 257 of it rushing on 44 attempts. Defensively, Indiana allowed 5 yards per rush to the Spartans with nearly 300 passing yards on 42 attempts. Dexter Williams completed 28% of his passes, 4.4 yards per attempt. On the year, Williams a 32% completion rate, 4.8 yards per attempt. Indiana just one-dimensional right now running the football. On the road, the Boilermakers are holding teams to 336 yards, 3.5 yards per rush. Boilermakers are in the hunt for that Big Ten championship berth. The play here will be Purdue and Indiana under 55.5. Memphis versus SMU college football pick. This one here is on Saturday. Memphis sits at 6-5 with that 59-zip home win to an FCS team, North Alabama, behind 493 yards. Now, Seth Hennigan, the quarterback on the year, completing 64% of his passes with 8 yards per attempt. SMU, they dropped to 6-5 after a 59-24 road defeat at Tulane. Mustangs gained 470 yards in this one, 141 rushing on 44 carries. They surrendered over 7.5 yards per rush to the Green Wave, with 141 passing on 14 attempts. Tanner Mordecai completed 65% in the loss, 6.1 yards per attempt. He passed for 298 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions On the air, Mordecai, a 63% completion rate, 8.2 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, Mustangs defense allowing 514 yards, 6.6 yards per rush, 8.5 yards per attempt. Tigers defense in this span allowing 253 yards. So the play here will be Memphis plus 4.5. All right, that was our college football pick show here for Tuesday. That was our week 13 part 2. As I said, we'll get this done in 6 parts with these 63 games for this week in college football. So check us out. Make sure you like and subscribe, set notifications. And of course, be sure to visit TonySmix.com for our best bets for today's action. And be sure to tune in tonight, this morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time for the morning steam with Ramon and Mindy. I'm Tony T. We'll talk to you later with more picks.